in the second decade of the current century. On the night of the 11th of July 1920, Rearcross was catapulted into the national headlines when the local RIC barracks was attacked by the Irish volunteers, led by people like Sean Tracy, Ernan O'Malley, and Paddy Ryan Lacken, the local chief of the volunteers in this region. The battle for Rearcross Barracks was a difficult and long engagement by the standards of the time. It started in the early hours of the morning and continued until 9:30 a.m. Despite the intensive attack, and particularly due to the limited firepower of the Irish volunteers of the time, while the barracks itself was destroyed, the RSC managed to hold out and avoided surrendering. Therefore, the main purpose of the attack on that occasion was the capture of badly required guns. Did not happen. It is difficult for us of this era to accept and understand why the IRA were so poorly equipped in those days. Less than 19 rifles were available to them in the attack on Rearcross Barracks. Among those active in that attack in a backup role was Jim Nolan, who as a very young boy of 19 years of age joined the volunteers here at Rearcross. I have Jim with me here this evening, now in his 92nd year, very mentally active and physically active as well, and as you will hear later on, a singer of a good ballad in a traditional style. Jim enjoys singing the Barracks of Ray. This evening's interview is to remind those of us who are senior citizens, and equally those of us who are still of this youthful generation, that what happened and the sacrifices people made to win us freedom. There is always only one accurate way of finding that out, and that is by interviewing those in the front line at the time. Jim Nolan was in that front line. Jim, when did you join the Irish Volunteers?
1918. The end of 1918. So it was going into the 1919. But I said maybe in January 1919 I joined. No, I can't think. Because we had a meeting there, because I wasn't quite do with nephew, and we joined up. There was someone else who was eligible to join, you see. Couldn't get everyone to join. So we joined anyway. We drilled from that out on and tour and every place. We used to go once or twice a week to tour, the back of the hill and tour. We drilled there. Back and drilled it, and there was some fella from some part of Cork was down there. I don't know who he was. Oh, we drilled all right. We were sure how to shoot and everything. We were our target for it. She was able to shoot it, you see. So we all out there was about 20% between what is in before and the 7 or 8 from this part of the country. There's more.
Now, who actually recruited you into the volunteers?
Oh, Brian Lacken. He was the head boss, and he took our names, and we made a declaration that we'd be true to the cause, you know. We had to say a few words. I forget what it was now. But we had to sign on anyway that we'd be true, and that anything we'd be asked to do, we'd do it, so we did. Any place we were asked to go, we went. Dispatches or anything, we go.
I suppose the most important engagement you were involved in during the War of Independence was the attack on your local barracks here.
That's why. I was in Hollyford too. We took stuff to Hollyford.
Yes.
About the game there. We went to Hollyford too. We took stuff out to it. Across the hills, out between Bristol and down. We landed it abroad. They gained in Hollyford. They captured that barrack. They captured all the stuff in it. They surrendered. And then we were in the mines after. So And whatever happened in the mines, they could do nothing. I don't know. They gave it up. They withdrew out of it. There was something wrong.
But as we were saying earlier, on the 11th of July, 1920, 73 years ago,
yeah,
the Rearcross Barracks attack took place.
Right.
Can you remember that evening prior to it?
I do, because even before the attack, we'd been all this stuff up from Clare, this lampite and all that. And we'd go round gathering bags of turf, through into the lampite, where they soak it up to light the barracks, you know. That's what they generally had. There's no petrol pumps here at that time, no nothing. They had petrol, I suppose they'd burn it a lot quicker. But the lampite they used.
Did you see Ernie O'Malley or Sean Tracy or any of those people during the barrack attack or prior to it?
Oh, I did. I see him that morning. And Tom Barry. To see the man asked me to get milk and a bit of grub for him. And 9 years after I met him again, he was an engineer, and he was over the cremaries, and I was working in the prairie, and we got a job in Carrick-in-Suva, building a creamery. So he came there as an engineer, and he asked Roger Nolan to where he came from, where he was from. He said, Rearcross. Oh God, he said, we'll go down and have a night there. Maybe this fellow over here might know. And he said, they come over to me then. And he said to me, someone was very good to us anyway. He gave us plenty of milk he got from a local farmer, and bread and everything. And he said, I didn't know who he was. I was the man.
Yes.
And put his hand in his pocket and he gave me £2.
Yes.
Because he never had met me for 9 years.
I see.
You see,
and who was the man that gave you the milk and the...
Oh, Martin Ryan. Charlie, they call him. Martin Ryan Charlie. He gave me all the cups and the mugs and the tankards of rod and smarter tankard. He had only 5,000 or 6,000. He might have 3 or 4 gallons of milk in it, you know. So he said, well, drink it all. And if you had enough, he'd go out and milk the house.
Yes, yes.
And that was the way. Give him bread and all, and butter.
You mentioned Jim O'Gorman there of Hollyford.
I did.
Did you know Jim?
I don't know him personally well. Oh, God, I did. Personally, I always knew him. And Jim Murphy.
Yes. Was Jim wounded in the barrack attack on Rearcross?
The sergeant sat out the door, and he fired up, and he shot him in the wrist. So Jim came down then, and Ratchet went up himself. He went up and continued above, throwing the stuff. And
you were back because you had no arms.
We were told, then, when everything brought into the barrack yard, we were told to move as far as we could away now and keep out of the firing line. We would know how the stray bullets would come out of, you know.
And who was giving the orders?
Oh, Lakin gave the orders. Oh, he gave all the orders. You know.
Well, I'm sure, was there fierce gunfire while the attack was going on?
Oh, you know. There was a porthole in the end of the barrack, facing the church. And they were firing out in that, you see.
Yes.
And then his wife was at the gate, so he put a bullet through an eye of a needle. He was a great shot. And they put out one, he put in 2.
Yes.
And they went away from him. They stopped it. They had no place to fire out.
Is it true that gunfire, bullets went through the church?
Oh, yeah. They were firing out in that porthole, you see, and the church is up into that barrack, you know. And they were up middle ways in the church there. Oh, there, I know, someone closed them up or washed it after, and they went out the other side.
Will you explain to us the kind of a church you have in Rearcross, Jim?
Oh, he's got a nice church. It came from England, so brought there by Father Michaud in the early days. And she's there 104 years anyway. And he bought it over. They bought it and they came over and they erected it. It's taken down the end. and there was a Scotland now, Wales, in Wales about. And for the rest of the above there for all in, because £750 fell me talk like I done. And the way I know that, I was doing work in Kilcommon, and there was a parish priest there. He came out one day and he called me in. He said, come in a minute, General, I tell you. He was a Father Fitzgerald. He was after being out in American place, and I was working for him. Do you know what Rearcross Church was built for? He said, that's what I don't, maybe a couple of thousand. £750 landed from Wales, and the rest of there.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Jim, to come back to the barrack attack, now, okay, the night you were watching it from the hill, but the morning after, the Irish volunteers retreated back through the valleys and hillsides.
They all went their own way.
But I'm sure the Crown forces came.
Oh, they did. The lorries, there were 5 or 6 lorries here about 12 o'clock in the day. They were throwing up signals around the barrack, but they couldn't, in Limerick they couldn't get them. They didn't know where they were coming from. They didn't know where the sound was coming from. They were putting up rockets, you see, that's some kind of stuff, I don't know what they had. But they found out anyway until 12 o'clock in the day when they came.
You were telling me there was confusion caused the attackers to retreat. A wrong signals, a wrong identification.
Oh yes, they were in Fannis Hill. There was 3 fellas in that hill with flags. And there were 3 overhead the Rearcross here, the hill up there, Ginny Kindy's Hill as we call it. There was 3 fellas there. And that morning, there was a man dead in Rearcross up the road here. And the chef was coming up. That time, they were wake him at home, you see. And then they take him to the church for mass, and then take him off and bury him. That was the go at that time. But the chef was coming up anyway, and the fellas in Fannis Hill, they were so blinded, they thought it was a lorry, you know. They couldn't see the horse, but they could see the hearse was higher up, you know. And they signalled the fellas up here from Fannis. So there was a messenger boy watching out for the signal, and he came down and he told them there was a lorry coming, so they retreated in. They were 9:30 in the morning.
What did you do that morning after coming back?
Huh?
What did you do the morning after the attack?
Where'd I go?
Yes.
I was working out there at the back of the hill. I was working on the land that time. I was working with a farmer. I went back to my work. And the morning after that again, then Flannery got all this out. We all came in and we helped him to clear out the house. Like in times to go over to school, you know. There was no school that day, no nothing. Whatever was there, they came up. So I suppose they got bitten. They stayed there for one or 2 nights, and they got all Flannery's house over. I went down then to go over.
Were the local people, were they surprised or confused or frightened by what occurred?
Yeah, they weren't. They weren't. Because no one liked them. They were desperate laggards, you know, they do anything.
Who are you referring to now?
The Black and Tans.
Yes.
They were very bad.
Were they?
Ah, they were. But 2 of them escaped after that. When the truce was called, I don't know what time the truce was called, 21, wasn't it?
Exactly 12 months after the Rearcross Barracks attack.
They would come up here to Pat Carey's pub for a drink, you see. They'd bring the rifles with them. And the boys had television anyway, and the truce came today. And the next thing happened was, a few of the boys heard it, and they came in 3 or 4 with a couple of guns, you see.
Yes.
And they were waiting till they come out. They were going to bang. 2 minutes, they were going to bang them down, truce and all this was, you know.
Yes.
Because they were after doing 6 o'clock like that, and they wanted to do away with them. So 12 o'clock, there was a back door in the pub. And whenever possessed them. They went out the back door and they come up the road. They got out road, and this road, you see what we're living, there's steps up there, and they would open the into the barricade gate.
I see.
They'd be sorry for that. They come out the front door, they were done. And then they wouldn't pay for a drink, or they'd pay for nothing. Grew up behind it. Any house they go into, they'd take cakes of bread and meat. There was meat hanging up. They'd take pieces and everything.
Did you have many brushes with him in your time?
Oh, I hadn't. I kept away from him. I always wouldn't plenty heed him, you see, because we weren't coming in very much around the village. We'd be kind of in dread of him, you know. They could shoot you at anything.
Jim, as one of the... You must be the last survivor now of the barracks of Ray.
There is no other one. He says he's dead. G. The Wild is dead. Paddy Racken is dead. Jack Hayes is dead. Jim Gordon is dead. Children, they're all gone. There's one more in it now.
Jim, there's a famous ballad written about that attack.
Is it?
All over Tipperary, I came across people who were claiming they were at the barrack of Ray.
Yeah.
But we know that many of the claimants could not be actually there on the night. We know you were there. We know now you're the last survivor. And would you ever sing us the barracks of Ray?
Again?
Again, please.
They gather from mountain and valley, they're home by their valleys and rills, to fight for the honours of Ireland that night in the heart of the hills. And here's to the boys of the prairie, who trod o'er the mountains that day. We threw ourselves daylight and dairy, the burn, the old barrack in Ray. It was dawn when the barrack was blazing, sure the sun was high up in the sky. The sights and the flames were amazing, they lit up the whole country round. Then here's to the boys of the prairie, who trod o'er the mountains that day. We threw ourselves daylight and airy, to burn the old barrack in Ray. The time had now come for retiring, nor a forceman said dim light yet come. Our boys, they still kept on firing, and shouting the daylight marched home. Keep their names evergreen, men of Erin, whilst the Shannon and sure waters flow. You know it is courage and daring will save our dear land from the foe. So join up the ranks and get ready, prepare for the oncoming fray. To drill to be cool, calm and steady, like the boys at the barrack of Ray. Now,
Jim Nolan, thank you very, very much indeed. We are privileged to have this opportunity of interviewing you as the last survivor of the barrack of Ray. Please God, on the 11th of July this year, we will be